welcome to this day for this July 6th. It's a Tuesday, actually. It feels like Monday for a lot of us because we're coming back to work, but thanks for joining us today. I got to get one of those intros that says this day with Paul Ortiz because Lisa's been taking some time off, but I'm glad to fill in today and hopefully do a good job for you. We have quite a show for you today. We're going to have Steve Parsons on with us. He's the president of Third Mutual. I was going to say Third Laguna Hills Mutual, and it is, which is interesting because we live in Laguna Woods, right? But we're going to be talking about the ballot proposition that went through a couple weeks ago, and we'll give you some information regarding that. And then if we have time a little bit later in our program, Lisa has some Costco secrets. She's always got to get a little bit of FaceTime on the program, so we'll learn about some Costco secrets. If you didn't catch it, very interesting, some of the products that Costco sells and what brand they have it on the retail side. So I think you'll find that interesting. Well, let's take a look at some of the meetings we'll have. Obviously, if you're watching our morning program, we will have the Golden Rain Foundation meeting, and that's going to be at 9:30 live here on Village Television. And then at 1:30 this afternoon, the Third Finance Committee, they'll be meeting as well. And I believe you can go to lagunawoodsvillage.com/meetings and watch that as well. And be a participant as well if you have questions regarding the upcoming 2022 budget, if you can believe that. Well, let's take a look outside. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. It was a beautiful 4th of July weekend. You can see that the temperatures are going to be really nice the next few days. But some clearing this morning, but our temperature is going to be in that 79, high 70s and then low 80s as the week approaches. But as you can see, as we get into the weekend, it's going to be some warm temperatures in the low 80s, but mostly sunny and beautiful throughout the week. And I think if there's a chance to get out and get an early walk in Laguna Beach or someone nearby, be sure and do that, but always wear your sunblock. Great temperatures for the next couple of weeks. And then our sunrise and sunset is going to be at 5:47. Let me get out of the way there. Oh, today she wanted to make sure I told you it was National Fried Chicken Day. So that's what we have there, fried chicken. It looks pretty good, especially after the 4th of July. Our sunrise this morning was at 5:47 a.m. and our sunset is going to be at 8:04 this evening. So be sure and catch up. Beautiful sunsets the last couple of days. Well, we'll be back with Steve Parsons and a lot more of our program right after this.
All great healthcare organizations care, but the best dare to reach higher. At Hoag, we lead with life-saving clinical trials and advanced therapies. Our world-renowned specialists innovate with state-of-the-art technologies like virtual reality and robotics. Hoag is the #1 hospital in Orange County 4 years in a row. Now, more than ever, your healthcare choices matter. Choose Hoag.
Joining us on the program now is Steve Parsons. He's the president of Third Mutual. Thanks for joining us this morning, Steve.
Good to be here.
Did you have a good 4th?
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Beautiful weather, wasn't it?
It was. It was terrific.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Terrific. Not so terrific is a lot of the issues we're dealing with insurance, right? So let's start really with the history of how this is all kind of coming about. We did have that ballot initiative that didn't pass a couple weeks ago, but give the viewers a little bit about the history of how this all came about.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Well, in the fall of 2020, Third Board put forward a vote for reinstatement of the CC&Rs for member consideration and a vote. The reinstatement was intended to update our CC&Rs that had not been updated since the 1980s. The primary reason for the restatement was the untenable situation related to property insurance. Until 2019, the Travelers Insurance Company insured the whole village for the then valued at $700 million. In 2019, Travelers informed United, Third, and GRF, who at the time purchased insurance together, that it would only insure the village for the first $50 million. The remaining $650 million would have to be obtained through other carriers.
That's amazing because $50 million is not a very large sum. I mean, they didn't just go down a half. They're like, if you want that, we'll give you that. That's amazing.
That's about it.
So Travelers has been, like you just said, been with the community for over 20 years. So what really changed in 2020 then?
Well, there were several things that happened. And in 2020, Travelers told all three boards that before it would consider insuring the three entities, there needed to be a total revaluation of the village. Revaluation means they come through, look at each structure, and in today's dollars, how much would it cost to replace these structures? So that's basically what that means. And keep in mind that the village had not undergone a valuation close to 20 years, okay? And this was due to a good relationship we had and we enjoyed with Travelers up until so many natural disasters and other catastrophes internationally took place.
Right.
So the valuation of the village went from the historic $700 million to a whopping $3.4 billion. When we went to market with a new valuation of $3.4 billion, you can imagine how high the premium for 2020 went. In 2019, Third paid less than $2 million for its share of the property insurance. In 2020, Third's share of the premium rose to $4.1 million, over double the previous year. Well, recognizing that as residents of Third, we all face a crisis, the board decided to take action and use the rising insurance premiums as a lead reason to reinstate the outdated CC&Rs. The restated CC&Rs were put before the members for a vote in the fall of 2020. While there was an amazing turnout of 63% of the members voting, it was not enough to pass the proposed changes.
So really, what's it going to take to pass these CC&Rs and at least get the community on board with this?
Well, several things took place. Current Third CC&Rs require that 67% of the members vote yes to effect a change. Of the 63% of the members who voted in the first ballot election, 73% voted yes. It should be noted that 37% of the members did not bother to cast a ballot, so the reinstatement of the troubled CC&Rs did not count.
Yeah.
It just didn't work. So in last week's vote, 5,780 people mailed their ballots. 2,701 members voted yes. 367 members voted no. That was 1,172 votes short of the votes we needed to approve, giving the board the ability to insure for probable maximal loss versus full replacement value. This is over 11% less than the number who voted last year. The number voting yes on this ballot is 46.76%, just about the same percentage that voted yes last year. And still, the apathy vote was 47%. These are people that didn't turn in a ballot or for one reason or another.
Right.
We just didn't receive a ballot.
They didn't participate.
Right.
You and I were talking a little bit earlier about that 67%. That's just something that's been on the paper or in the books for probably, 40 years
Yes.
at least. So that's,
Yeah.
usually majority obviously is 51%. In
Yeah.
this case, you need to get 67% of the participants to at least respond.
Right.
Yeah, amazing.
Even in a presidential election,
Right.
It's the majority that takes it, takes the vote.
So kind of explain to us that full replacement value and then the probable maximum loss. That very technical insurance terms, I'm sure everybody's like, what?
Okay. The full replacement value is, in Third Mutual, we have a little bit over 1,400 structures. Full replacement value would be the cost to totally rebuild and make these structures whole again. The probable maximum loss was determined by a company that the insurance companies recognized, that came in and looked at all of our structures and said, worst case, which would probably be a fire, the whole village would sustain a loss of about $425 million, $450 million. Okay, so the question begs itself, why would we want to overinsure if we thought our worst threat was only 425, 450 million.
Right.
Okay, so, but you have the CCNR standing in place there that says you have to be covered at the full replacement value.
Wow. And,
So-
those prices are going up no matter
Yes.
no matter what happens. We all saw what happened with timber and with steel in the last 6 months. You know,
Yeah.
to build a home nowadays is much more expensive than it was last year even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people during the first ballot proposition or initiative, we'll call it, you know, you had a no factor out there, right? There's always two sides to a story or a topic, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it
Yeah.
seems like some of those people actually supported the second initiative. Why do you think that happened?
Well, there's probably different reasons that come to play here, but a strong minority of individuals who oppose the restatement and work for the defeat of the first ballot, they had their reasons for doing that, and that's fine, and it didn't pass. The opposition group posited that we should put forth an amendment to change only the requirement of 100% replacement cost for insurance. This oppositional group told the members of Third Board on numerous occasions that if the ballot was just on changing the amount of the replacement cost insurance, that it would pass. However, members of the community organized a car rally and urged members to vote yes. A full-page ad was placed in the Globe with community influencers leading their names in support of the ballot. 4,000 flyers were printed and distributed to members of Third, urging them to vote on this important matter. Many members of the community assisted the board and distributed the flyers, many going door to door. Signs were placed on cars strategically throughout Third Mutual. Placards were placed near all the gates of Third Mutual asking to vote yes. In addition, the board held an informational meeting that was broadcast on TV6 prior to the distribution of the ballot. Well, further, 2 town hall meetings were held on TV6 by the board to answer any questions residents might have. Members of the board personally placed calls to non-resident members to encourage them to vote.
Now, during this whole process, there's information going back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want to call it misinformation or, you know, whatever you want to call it. But that was happening throughout this election, and even to the point that everybody's like, well, there's about 6,000 units in Third Mutual, and yet only 5,780 ballots were mailed out. Speak a little bit about that and how that process evolved, whether it was misinformation or just a matter of communication.
Okay, well, there could have been some of both.
Right.
But not every manor has an owner member. Some manors are vacant, others are in probate or trust that have not been settled. Others are currently owned by lenders due to financing defaults. The sales and leasing and resident services departments keep very up-to-date and detailed records of those members who are eligible to vote. That's why it was not 6,102. There were 5,780 that qualified, and those were the ballots that were actually mailed.
Right. And speaking of ballots, a lot of them were termed to be invalid by the Inspector of Elections for a number of reasons.
That's true. Close to 100 ballots were disqualified. People failed to sign the envelope as indicated in the instructions. Some were illegal. There were some duplicate ballots from the same member. In one case, there were 2 ballots in the same envelope. One of the important jobs of the Inspector of Elections is to be able to match every vote to a member who casts it. This is done through a numerical scan code on the outside envelope.
Yeah, and if you watched our live recording, and it's on YouTube as well if someone wants to watch the 8-hour event, but she actually showed how, you know, it was either marked incorrectly or not, you know, filled in completely, and said, okay, this obviously was a yes, so here I'm going to draw it in. But a lot of those were almost impossible to figure out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, what happens with this process, you know, the replacement of a ballot? So if someone lost it or spilled coffee on it or whatever, you know, is there a process that they could get a replacement ballot?
Oh, yes, there was. There was a published phone number for obtaining a new ballot. It goes to the Inspector of Elections who certifies and resends a new ballot. There was a minor glitch for it lasted about 24 hours when the phone number did not work. It was a problem between the Inspector of Elections call center and the phone company there in their area. It was an issue with the call center that the inspector uses. Other usable phone numbers were available and were publicized. While it was a hiccup, it was not enough to account for large numbers of votes still required. There were 2 other numbers that were actually published. The board chose not to extend the election because we were advised that the number of calls for replacement ballots was very low, and we were reaching a deadline to bind the necessary insurance coverage before the current coverage lapsed.
Mm-hmm. Now, just like any election, obviously there's election day. Obviously this process has changed nationally. They actually give you a few more days now, but eventually you have to have some kind of deadline. So after 2 initiatives, what's next for the Third Mutual Board?
Well, we've spent a lot of time thinking about that, and with the failure of the ballot, the board, in preparation for the 2022 budget, has no choice but to raise the monthly assessment to the highest extent permitted by law. The monthly assessment for Third will increase by $93 per man per month beginning January 2022. This is a 20% increase in the monthly assessment. And let me reiterate again that this is a maximum allowed by law without going into a special assessment. Okay? As a note, this does not include any assessment that GRF might impose for next year. The most recently discussed GRF monthly assessment increase is $13.25 per man per month. Well, it's critical for all of our members of Third to understand that the 20% increase is a maximum allowed by law in any given year. In this case, the bad news gets worse because the $93 per man per month does not cover all the costs of insurance. Last year, to mitigate the increase of the cost of insurance, $20 per man per month was passed on to the members. Remember, last year the increase was $20 per man per month, and the board borrowed money from the disaster fund to underwrite the additional cost of insurance. We now have to begin paying back the disaster fund so that, should the need arise, there is sufficient money available.
Wow. So if this $93 doesn't cover your insurance costs, say in the first half of next year, will there be another assessment or a special assessment? What happens if you don't have enough money to pay for the insurance?
Well, in finalizing the 2022 budget, the board is also taking steps to curtail or cancel projects and programs to save money. The projects and programs that are now under review are not expected to impact the infrastructure of the mutual, nor do they include any layoffs of staff. The same landscaping that will take place in terms of frequency of mowing and shrub work will continue. Programs like fumigation, dry rot, waistline remediation, additional staff for VMS activities, purchase of some vehicles, and so forth are included in the cuts.
So before we let you go, we're going to ask you to look at your crystal ball here, and what do you think you see in the future for insurance and how this process will kind of unfold?
Well, as you know, we have a lot of things that are happening, and going forward, we have to look at what's reasonable, affordable, and available. And right now, with our insurance companies going out looking at what's available in the market, they're finding it very difficult to find companies that want to insure very much at a time. Okay. Last year, it took like 35 companies just to get us to the 700 million mark. This year, it'll probably take 30 to 35 again, maybe just to get us to 400 million. So we may not be able to reach everything that we're looking for, but that's up to the market, and we don't control the market.
Right.
So we're moving forward in that area. But we have also, you may not know, have changed brokers in the past. We're now with Gallagher, and they are really working with us full steam ahead to get the insurance that we need. They're calling us, talking to us like 2-3 times a week. And we've also said to them that we want you to tell us what's happening under the radar, so to speak, in the insurance industry. We want to know what's being talked about, what might happen before it's announced, and they are working with us in that capacity.
And as we discussed earlier, prior to the program going live, these insurance carriers are international.
Yes.
So everybody just thinks, oh, well, Southern California has had fires and, you know, earthquakes will eventually happen here in California. But, you know, they deal with tsunamis and mudslides and everything else that happens throughout the world. So, you know, those costs are kind of shared amongst all of their customers, right? And we would be a part of that process.
Yeah, and people need to understand that in our locality, just this locality does not drive the insurance that we have to get. Like you said, the insurance companies insure people all around the world, agencies and so forth, and we're just part of the total mix. Yeah. Now there are things that we can do to try to help us out a little bit, and that's what we are working on now. So stand by for news on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done.
A lot of it,
yeah,
and it'll continue for probably another year before it settles down.
Right. Well, we're going to let you go because I know you have a busy day. You also have the 1:30 Third Finance Committee. And we appreciate you coming on and enlightening us about some. And you have one last thing, sure, right ahead.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Finally, we'd like to let you know, if you aren't already aware, that the annual upcoming board election is fast approaching. And while this is very easy for people who have not labored hours and hours over the issues that Third Mutual has worked with and is critical, I think that you should take a very close look at the importance of supporting incumbent candidates who are willing and staying committed to seeing the best solutions to these issues that are put forward. Too much board turnover in crisis leads to a loss of experience and expertise. So we ask that you just think about what might be different, what could be different, but also what we're facing here and how we need to move forward. So once again, we ask that you heavily support the incumbent people that are here. And when I mentioned the number of hours that we've spent on insurance, and this is over a 2-year period, each person has spent over several hundred hours on this. We've had many, many board meetings. We've had many times where we brought in outside consultants and talked to us about that. So we're building our expertise to a high level. We don't want to lose that expertise. So once again, we ask that you totally support the incumbents as they run again. Yeah,
and that election process will happen, I believe, in October once again.
Correct.
So it's important that people not only turn out and vote for some of these ballot initiatives that you all put out, but it's so important too that they participate during that HOA election as well. Yeah.
And you can pick up a packet if you want to run for the board as it is now through I think it's the 29th. You have until the 29th to get a packet here in July, and you can get it through the resident service counter downstairs. Great. Fill it out and get it back in.
Well, that's all good information, and there's quite a few good candidates out there. We just need them to step up, right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks again so much for joining us today on our program.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you bet. And if you'd like more information regarding this, be sure and check out the breeze that comes out, or check out ThisDay in Laguna Woods Village. That always comes out. Lisa always has great information. And of course, the third board always meets on the third Tuesday of each month, and they'll be meeting on July 20th right here on Village Television. We'll be back with more of our program right after this.
Well, we're always scouring the internet, magazines, newspapers for interesting facts, and I came across moneywise.com, who shared with us some very interesting Costco secrets. I don't know about you, but every time I walk into Costco, I drop a minimum of $200. It's crazy going there, so you have to be careful. But if you want to know some secrets, here is the first one. Now, if you have a dog and you're buying dog food, which is the Kirkland small dog food, it is actually Diamond Naturals. So Kirkland buys the rights to put their name on that particular dog food. Now, another one is our beloved Starbucks coffee. Now, Starbucks has 3 different kinds of coffee, and Kirkland sells all 3. Now, if you notice on the bag of the Kirkland brand, it says brewed with love by Starbucks. So that is a giveaway that it is Starbucks coffee. The next one is Duracell batteries. So if you are buying the Kirkland, battery piles there, it is actually Duracell batteries. If you are in the market for a mattress, on the left is the Stearns and Foster mattress, and on the right is the Costco mattress, but it is actually a Stearns and Foster mattress. So, it's best to compare prices when you are looking for these kinds of items, because you hope that you're getting a bigger size for a less amount of money than if you were to go to the regular store. Now, wine. If you like to buy wine at Costco, they have a variety of different kinds. Some are their brand, but they're not going to tell you what the actual brand is. So on this one, though, it's a Tie Point on the left, and then on the right, they call it a Marlboro, but they do quote Tie Point on the front, but again, it is a Kirkland brand. And then for cranberry juice cocktail, you can see on the left, we have the Ocean Spray one, and then on the right, it does say Ocean Spray right on it, but again, it's got the Kirkland brand, and this time you're getting two, and hopefully the prices are excellent. So there you go, little Costco secrets behind the scenes for you, and let me know if you find anything else that's really cool there, and send an email to lagunawoodsvillagetv@gmail.com. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have some additional community information. Stay tuned.
Well, we only have about a minute or two, but I wanted to remind you that the drive-through food bank is going to be tomorrow. That's Wednesday, July 7th. That's going to be from 9 o'clock until 10:30 tomorrow morning. It's held over there at St. Nicholas Catholic Church, just down the street from us. They share hope, purpose, and food to those who could use some help, and everyone is welcome. If you want more information, be sure and call that phone number, 609-8574. It is sponsored by the Sawback Church, Laguna Woods, and it's a drive-through food bank for those in need, and that's going to be at 9 o'clock tomorrow. And Dr. Tran, a good friend of ours here on our program at Village Television, he's going to be presenting, and that's going to be on July 8th. That's from 1 to 2 o'clock, and you can RSVP with Leslie Coretti at yahoo.com. And that's going to be a really interesting program. He's going to talk about, you can't sleep through this talk, because Dr. Tran, if you know him, is a very good speaker, has a lot of energy, and will definitely get you going. And he's going to be talking to you, it looks like, the benefits of a great night's sleep. And that's so important, especially as we age, to get your at least 8 hours of sleep and start to have that sleep pattern that we all need. Well, let's take a look outside. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day for you today. Get out there, play some pickleball. If you have a tea time out there at the wonderful Laguna Woods Golf Club, it's going to be a great day to be out there with friends and family that might be visiting for this 4th of July. As we mentioned, nice temperatures throughout, and as the weekend comes, it's going to be a little bit warmer. But again, beautiful temperatures, especially some of the things that are going out throughout the country. We're very fortunate to live here in Southern California. Well, I thank you for joining us for this half hour. I'm Paul Ortiz, and we'll see Lisa Hart here tomorrow. But thanks so much for joining us today on the program. Enjoy the rest of your day right here in Laguna Woods Village.